Oof. This will wake you up. What is going on, everybody? My name is JoJo, and today I am very curious about the new DC movie titled Blue Beetle. An alien scarab chooses college graduate Jaime Reyes to be its symbiotic host, bestowing the teenager with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary and unpredictable powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero known as the Blue Beetle. Yo, I don't even know where to start with this movie. It's I was just filled with so much emotion watching this movie. I guess this is just gonna be a random conversation, really. I guess where we can start off is Cholo Maridueña playing Jaime Reyes. Now, I am a big fan of Cobra Kai. Cholo plays Miguel. I was a big fan of Miguel. He portrayed this character very well. He really brought the emotion, the depth, the heart into it. I believed every scene that he was in. He was definitely giving me like Tom Holland vibes of Spider-Man. You know, you have a young superhero who might be a little awkward, still trying to figure out, navigate his way through life. And he becomes a superhero. He doesn't know what he's doing. You know, he was giving that very quirky, innocent vibe like Tom Holland did in the first Spider-Man movie that he was in. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. We're not going to get into the too much depth about this. One of the things that I loved about this movie was that not only did we have Jaime at the center of this movie, his whole family was at the center of this movie. I thought the family were just going to be, side characters, which they are side characters, but maybe in a couple scenes here and there, especially towards the beginning of the movie. But then when it gets to the nitty gritty, it's gonna be Jaime, right? No, this movie is completely centered around the family. It is all about familia. Mom, dad, brother. I'm sorry, mom, dad, sister, abuela, aka Nana, and then we have his uncle, played by George Lopez. They were in this movie throughout, and I absolutely loved his family. They were just so positive and proud of him. Jaime is the first in their family to go to college and graduate. So they put him up on a pedestal. He is like the star of their family, which can be a lot of pressure on a kid. Coming from a Latin family, coming from experience in that realm, being a first generation college graduate. I feel like people look at you differently. Like, you have to make it. You have to be better than the rest of us. It was something that I resonated with. There were so many things that I resonated with in this movie, but just going off of that, the very beginning of him graduating school and coming back home, and finding out that there's so much trouble happening within the family. They've lost their business. There's a bunch of gentrification happening within his city, Palmera City, which was, I guess, made up for this movie. And he feels like he has to save the family, be the one to save everybody, and those things that were very, they hit home. They hit home very much. His father, his father had some medical issues, but he was so positive and uplifting about it, and he was always just like, don't worry, we're gonna take care of it. We're gonna get through this together as a family, and we're gonna beat everything. He was just so uplifting and positive, and oh man, like that's so not me. I always think like the worst, and all the things that are happening and troubles, like we have, you stress out about it. But his dad was just so comforting to him. It was like, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. I loved it. I love the father-son aspect of this movie. I'm very close with my father, so anytime there was a scene between Jaime and his dad, I was just sitting there like, you know? I think everybody in his family honestly stood out. I loved his mother. I loved his sister. His sister was super sassy. His abuelita Nana, she was great. Um, just she starts off as like your typical grandmother, and man, does she just switch it up and have to get serious, and she puts on the strong face, and she just kicks ass. She really does kick ass, and I loved her. I want her to be my grandmother. George Lopez as his uncle. I thought he's obviously the comedic relief, right? He was very funny. I loved him as his uncle. I feel like he was a little bit over the top though. There were some parts where I was like, okay, Theo, like chill out. You're annoying. Maybe some of the jokes were a little bit excessive, or some of the loud yelling and whatnot was a little bit excessive. So there's a little gripe, I guess, when it comes to George Lopez. But I'm a big George Lopez fan, so I'll let it slide. But there were times where I was like, okay, that's enough. This is the first time we have a superhero film that our superhero is Hispanic, Latino, and surrounded by a majority Latino cast. It's just so beautiful to see a movie that represents my people so well, and it was unapologetically brown. There were so many Easter eggs and references to Hispanic culture, like when we saw El Chapulín on the TV, or we're seeing the Thalia telenovela on the TV, hearing George Lopez's character listening to Bidi Bidi Bum Bum in the car by Selena, um, Jaime waking up with the Vaporub, because if you're Hispanic, you know how this little bottle just will save your life in this Hispanic world. It's moms, grandmothers. It's just a thing. This just cures everything. So many Easter eggs that I was just chuckling. I was grinning. It just gave me flashbacks of my childhood. It just filled me up with such warmth, and I absolutely loved all of the Easter eggs that we got to see in this film. I felt like the effects in this movie were really good. I don't think there were too many scenes where I was like, gosh, that looks so fake. Like the suit, for example, the Blue Beetle suit was crisp and just neon blue. It looked so beautiful, and I want to dress like that for Halloween. The fight sequences, if I can recall, they said in prior interviews that they took a lot of inspiration from the video game Injustice 2 with the fighting and the combos. It was great. The weapons that Blue Beetle uses, I guess he can imagine certain different weapons. I was honestly looking forward to all of the weapons that were going to be created from the suit, from the Scarab. Those weapons were so badass. I saw another interview where he has a blaster, and they said that they took inspiration from Mega Man with his blasters. I didn't even catch that while watching the film, but now looking back, it's like, oh yeah, that does look like Mega Man's blaster. Super cool, super crisp. I love the effects on this. I think the only sequence where I thought the effects were kind of blurry or kind of meh was there was a dream sequence later on in the film that was very, dreamy like and blurry. I think that was on purpose though, because it was a dream like sequence, so the effects looked very blurry and dreamy. So I'm gonna give it a pass on that, but that scene probably was the only part that looked to me fake. But again, it was a dream sequence. I expected it to look blurry and dreamlike. The storyline in this movie was very general. I don't think the storyline overall was anything outstanding, anything new that we haven't seen before in a superhero movie. This is a introduction to the Blue Beetle, so we're seeing how he gets his powers, his struggles, things we've seen before. Nothing really stood out about it. Again, very general. You could probably guess how it was going to play out. But I think what made this movie and story better or different was that it just had so much heart. This was an emotional roller coaster, as particularly for me, an emotional roller coaster where I think this is where Cholo stood out. He put his heart into this film, and it absolutely showcased in his tone, in his dialogue, his facial expressions, his family. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. His family was perfectly casted for this film. Each actor stood out, and they did the damn thing. I cried twice in this movie. I can't believe I even cried twice in this movie. I don't think I've cried in a superhero movie yet. This movie made me cry twice. Again, it just hits home with the Hispanic family, the parents, the grandmother, being that one guy in the family, you know, going to college and having to live up to expectations. It just really hit home. It's an emotional roller coaster, and I think that's what makes this film so wonderful and stand out. Now, some negatives. There were a couple of negatives, like I mentioned before. The storyline, very general, nothing we haven't seen before. I think Susan Sarandon playing the villain. Susan Sarandon is a great actress, obviously, right? I don't know about her as a villain in this. She was giving very like evil stepmother vibes, you know, just like catty, little evil here and there, but I wouldn't say she was intimidating. She definitely used her henchman, Carapax. I think he also went by Ignacio was his real name, but Carapax. She definitely used him as her muscle, as the evil villain to do the fighting for her. But her as the main villain, I wasn't super impressed by. Didn't find her evil. Just found her a little bit like stepmother evil, like evil stepmother. Ignacio, again, this is like her henchman. She's gonna use him as her leader for this new army that she's basically building, and he was really there for the fight scenes. There wasn't too much character building for him. I would have loved to see some more character building because they did give us some backstory at the very end of the film. I would have loved it if I saw maybe some interaction between Susan Sarandon and Carapax throughout the film, maybe mentioning things from his past, maybe her threatening him with whatever, just to give us a little bit of an idea of who he is and why he's the way he is. They kind of threw all that at the end of it. So by that point, I was like, okay, am I supposed to root for this guy? Or am I supposed to hope that he gets destroyed? I wasn't sure. They give us the backstory, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I would have loved a little bit of more, maybe some breadcrumbs throughout the movie versus just at the very end. It kills me that this film was released during these times. We're in the middle of a strike, so obviously there was less interviews and promos for this from the cast. I think also with DC having the reputation that they're having right now, people were probably turned off by DC in general with the last couple films, you know, not doing so good or getting bad reviews for whatever reasons. The effects, for example, that obviously is going to turn people off from this movie. So with the reputation, with the strikes happening, and on top of that, not getting the support, I don't think it's getting the support that it should from the Hispanic community. I don't see enough people talking about this movie, showing up for this movie, you know, supporting it, because this is our first time getting representation. We can't complain about not getting representation, and then when we do, not showing up for it. That just makes no sense. They're gonna stop showing stuff like that. And I think of like old Latin-centered TV shows. There's been several different Hispanic TV shows about Hispanic families, and they just never last long because people don't support it. and it kills me. So I think with that, the support from Latinx, DC's reputation, and of course the strikes that's happening, there was just so many things going against this film, and it really hurts my soul that that's happening. So all I can do is just recommend, and highly recommend, for everyone to go support this movie. You don't have to be Hispanic to understand the movie. We all have hearts. All of our hearts beat the same, and it will resonate with you in one way or another. Absolutely go see this film. I am going to give this film, and I'm aiming high here because of how much soul and heart it had. This movie was a 9 out of 10 for me. 9 out of 10. It was so good. I can't wait to pre-order the Steelbook, and I'm definitely going to go see it again. But that's all I got for you guys. Again, go see this movie. It is so good. It's so fun. It's action-packed. You're going to love it. Until next time.